What's cracking, ladies and gentlemen? 49 coming at you with another community shoutcast for the AGI Gaming New Zealand National Tournament. Just loading halfway into, I think it's game number 1 of LST up against CDC. Wasn't able to catch the draft at the beginning of the game, unfortunately, as I was casting the game number 2 of TDC up against Team MX. So it looks like LST have got the early stage of the game in favour with the 2-0 advantage. Lifestealer being picked up as a carry as well as the Darkseer. Very old school heroes. Looks like a Viper mid from the look of it. With Agent Orange actually choosing to max out the poison attack first. Very surprising considering ever since the poison attack change where it's 0-second cooldown at all levels, you usually max out the corrosive skin by level 7, or you go for a mixed build with a nether toxin and corrosive skin. Just because you get more damage from Nether Toxin and you get a lot more survivability from the Corrosive Skin, especially now that it procs on Spellcast as well. So it means that if you're up against a hero like an Invoker, you just walk up, you start hitting him. He can't trade right clicks without also eating the Corrosive Skin damage. And if he decides to trade with Cold Snap, he's also eating damage from that. It makes you incredibly difficult to bring down. So we've got Stan in 2001. Has just picked up a Vanguard, very early Vanguard up on the Bristleback. So it looks like it was a tri-lane Bristleback. Off to a great start. They're going in for a very early push up on the top lane. Rubick cops a fair amount of harassment there. Parada Taniwa, level 3. No mass Serpent Wards up for him, unfortunately. Looks like Windrunner was the offlaner, chose to go for the Soul Ring. Great sustainability item up on her. It means that she could constantly keep throwing out those power shots. And it looks like Lifestealer's been eating those power shots, so it's been effective trade up on her, and shows that she gets some CS, as well as pressuring the enemy hero. Agent Orange dives behind the tower, kills off the Invoker, even though it's cost excellent Invoker. Viper is such a difficult hero to lane against because he's got that exceptionally powerful lane presence with the orb harassment you get from the poison attack, and if you decide to trade hits, you're eating the corrosive skin as well as the nether toxin, ensuring that the lower your HP is, the more damage you're taking. From the look of it, CDC, they're going for a bit of a teamfight oriented lineup with the Bristleback tri-lane. The only reason why you'd want to have Bristleback in the tri-lane is if you want to go for very early engagements. Since Bristleback, if he's able to pick up a very fast mech or a very fast Vanguard, can run in the front line, similar to an Axe tri-lane to go for these engagements. Axe, Agent Orange takes a fall, 2-man bow strike. Your mind's also going to take a fall over in the Rubick Panito Faniwa fleeing for his life. Icy Wiener looks like he's going to be charging him down. Not too sure what he actually stopped there for a few seconds. It could have been some great blockage, but even then he could have run off to the side. And Icy Wiener is able to get a double kill off the back of that. While that's happening, the Buds eating a lot of goose attacks to the face. One more Quill Spray. And he takes a fall, actually runs into the trees instead of running forward, but he was dead regardless. And looks like the Quas Excellent Invoker went for 3 points up in the Exalt, and then 3 into the Quas, especially with the Cold Snap change. You want to get a lot more, you're forced to get a lot more points into Quas now if you want to have a lot more lane control. Just because Cold Snap damage is now 7 times your Quas level, so that means that you no longer get the 30 damage at level 1, which Invokers were dependent upon to be able to control the lane. Agent Orange looks like he's been building the mech, chose to go for the early Ring of Aquila. I'm still a bit puzzled by the max poison attack build, especially against the Quas Exile Invoker. You either want to max out, he's actually got the orb still casted on, so he's using it on creeps, bit unfortunate. But he's realized his mistake, he's turned it off now, going in for some last hits. It looks like across the board, Lifestealer by far leading the way. Chose to go for a Helm of the Dominant, very surprising that he chose those, considering that Lifestealer has an inbuilt Lifesteal to Feast. Helm of the Dominant actually doesn't give Lifestealer anything besides armor and the ability to stack Ancients, but even if you do stack Ancients, Lifestealer lacks the ability to be able to farm them reliably. Usually you want to see a early hand of Midas up in the Lifestealer if you're going to go for that greedier kind of style. Or otherwise you want to get the Phase Drum and Armlet Medigian up as soon as possible. Or even an early Maelstrom. Early Maelstrom in the Lifestealer gives you a lot of AoE presence. Lead Derp over in the Lifestealer going to be eating a fair few Goose stacks. He might have to blow Rage soon. Sunstrike's going to follow up as well. It's choosing the dive fist. No Rage been popped yet. It actually gets turned into a chicken. He could have chose the Rage. Rage is a bit too late. He's going to eat one more right click from the Bristleback. You have to keep in mind, Bristleback actually hurts. Does a fair amount of damage with Warpath. He could just run you down, especially with all the damage it gives you. And especially now with the fact that Warpath stacks for movement speed stack linearly, so it no longer gives you a huge increase in movement speed with the first stack. All stacks give you the same amount of movement speed, so it means that if he's able to get more than 2-3 stacks off, he's definitely going to outrun you. Especially if he's constantly landing goo. Should have raged and rage TP'd or raged and just walked away as soon as he saw the Bristleback continue to engage on him, especially without the tower there. Windrunner with phase boots up as well as the Soul Ring. Going to be very difficult to lane against. You can constantly be throwing out those power shots. Once she picks up level 6, we'll most likely be seeing an early point up in the focus fire, just to help bring down the tower. Especially with the recent buffs to focus fire. So it actually comes to sticky. The SS gets caught way out of position, eats the finger of death to the face. Agent Orange turns on the Invoker. Sunstrike's going to be falling up on him, but actually misses. And with the Ion Shell, as well as the War being committed, Agent Orange eats the level 1 Shackle Shot to the face. Corrosive Skin doing so much work. He actually turned and fight the Windrun, at least forces out the Windrun, choosing to continue to stand his ground despite the Windrun. Once Windrun's won up, now he can turn around and actually go for a kill if he decides to be a bit more ballsy, but Invoker bought back, follows him with a few more right clicks, and Agent Orange, he actually takes a fall. With Your Mind and the Rubick stealing the Barrow Strike, catches them out. Magma over in the Darkseer, he'd backed out long before then. 3 points up in Surge and 3 points up in the Ion Shell. Very surprising build order coming out from the Darkseer. You usually see 4-2 this early on, just because you only really need 2 points up in the Surge, and even then, that's fairly greedy. You want to get points up in the vacuum as soon as possible, especially with when you have a hero like a Sand King who followed the Epicenter. Because the majority of your hero relies on that early teamfight presence, and it's actually very surprising to see that he's gone for early point in the Darkseer wall. The reason why you don't go for early points in the Darkseer wall, unless you're finding very, very early on as 5, is because it has such a small AoE and a small duration, 15 seconds. While I say that, Sinking gets caught out with the Sunstrike, Magma fleeing for his life with Your Mind, that Barrow Strike steal completely catching them by surprise, and with the Mass Serpent Wards, they're going to take that tier 1 tower in the mid lane. CDC really turning around now, showing off the power of their superior early game lineup. Shackle Shot unfortunately misses, but Agent Orange back himself away. He really needs to mech up for his team to be able to stand tall these engagements. He has maxed out Corrosive Skin now, so it's going to be a pain in the ass to be able to bring him down, but Sunstrike's pure damage will pass through his magic resistance. So it's something that you have to keep in mind. Ladurp, continue to farm away. I'm still questioning this Helmet the Dominator build up on the Lifestealer. Actually, he seems to have switched his mind halfway through between going for phase boots or going for treads. It looks like he's actually just rushing a Armlet Medigian and choosing not to upgrade his boots. Very questionable build coming out from the Lifestealer, just because it really does hamper your effectiveness. If he didn't have the Helmet the Dominator, he could have phase boots and drums up by now, or he could be already have finished his Armlet Medigian and probably have phase boots up very shortly, and that gives him a lot more killing power. The issue with Helmet the Dominator on the Lifestealer is it doesn't give you anything that you don't really need at this time. Lifestealer is a carry hero that's dependent on winning the early and mid stages, just because you play so aggressive with rage and open wounds. You just walk up and right click people down. With the Infest, you've got that ganking presence if you have that nice delivery system with either the Puck or the Storm Spirit, or even Nature's Prophet. If you can infest into a hero that can jump around, you could create a lot of space for your team that way. Go for kills, and then you turn those kills into objectives by taking the tower. Bard's actually caught out the 2-man Shackle Shot. Great plays coming out from him. Looks like Hex was stolen by Your Mind. Hex is an incredibly powerful spell to steal. This goes 2.5 seconds stun at level 1. It's probably the best level 1 stun in the game. Agent Orange with the Ion Shell. That's one very scary Viper. When you're going to try to go for that cheeky snipe off, Fortune wasn't able to get it. Rubick throws at the Fade Bolt and is immediately slowed up to 260 movement speed just because of the Corrosive Skin. That's the reason why you want to max Corrosive Skin. So if on the off chance support heroes happen to rotate on your mid, and they're going to be copying so much damage and so much snare that if anyone from your team rotates, it's free kills for them. So even if they happen to bring you down, it's going to cost them a lot more than they bargained for. Windrunner will be interesting to see what item she chooses to go for. Actually, hasn't chosen to go for a point up in the focus fire. A bit surprising considering she actually has been left alone a fair amount in this bottom lane. But then again, early points on the Shackle Shot is very important. Armlet Medigian up for the Lifestealer, but without phase boots, he's not as dangerous as he'd like to be, just because he doesn't have that chasing ability. Lifestealer, if he's not hitting you, then he's not accomplishing anything that any other hero could do. The snare isn't. That's why he's so dependent on the phase drum race car build, where you have the open wounds to initiate. You run up and you start right clicking them down. If you're able to kite the Lifestealer, then he becomes completely useless. If you're able to kite out the duration of rage, it's very easy to be able to burn him down, since Lifestealer has very low HP for a strength hero. And it also has a very low armor, which is somewhat compensated by the Armlet Medigian and the Helmet Dominator. But in this case, he can't go one-on-one up against the Bristleback. Bristleback can tank his hits, turn around, continue to quill spray him in the face, and once his rage wears off, the rest of his team can just blow him up. Shadow Shaman has picked up Arcane Boots and level 7, so he was level 3 a few minutes ago. Now he's starting to pick up his farm and his EXP. That's really starting to leverage that to an advantage. We see in terms of net worth, while the Lifestealer and the Viper are leading the net worth scoreboards, a lot of 2,000 of Lifestealer's gold is effectively wasted, since the Helmet Dominator isn't going to help you fight, it's not going to help you gank. And the Viper, he's just picked up his mech, so all ST, they've got an incredibly powerful 5-man lineup at the moment, just because the fact that they've got Viper with a level 2 ultimate as well as the mechanism. It looks like CDCT, they don't have the mechanism up yet. Bristleback chose not to go for it. Usually he's the best candidate for the mech carry. Windrunner called out with the silence as well as the stun. Bristleback pops his blade mail, standing his ground, doing as much damage as he can, but the issue with the blade mail is they can just ignore you, wait for it to wear off, then turn around and kill you. Buyback coming out from Windrunner is TPing back in. Invoker takes the full lead. Derp actually making his build work. All things considered, Agent is doing what he can. He's got mechanism. He's used the mechanism earlier to keep himself alive. He's got 10 stick charges up, so he's got enough mana to be able to continue to stand his ground. Continuing to chase down the Shadow Shaman. Turns around with an Ether Shock, as well as a chicken that is instantly blowing up by the rest of his team. And they lost a lot for that engagement, especially considering that the buyback was used by Windrunner. She wasn't able to accomplish all too much with that buyback. Whenever you're forced to use a buyback, you want to get at least one kill in exchange for it. Unless if it's a desperation buyback, in the case that you have to defend high ground. Blink Dagger now up over the Darkseer, so even though he's only got 1 point up in the vacuum, with a Blink Dagger, he's still able to land these big walls. Lifestealer chose to go Treads over Phase. As personal preference, a lot of players prefer the Phase boots because it gives you a lot more mobility, and you get all the attack speed you need from Rage as well as the Armlet. It's more the fact that you have to be able to continue to hit them. But considering that CDCT continue to keep walking into these engagements and being caught out of position by the stuns, the Treads build actually could be working out fairly effectively over on the Lifestealer. So Bristleback, the issue that I take with the Blade Mail pickup this early on is while you do have a lot of uncontrolled AoE coming out from All ST with the Sanking Epicenter, and while you are returning that damage, if you picked up a mech costs about the exact same 100 more than the Blade Mail, it gives your entire team an extra buffer of 250 HP, and it makes yourself a lot more survivable than the Blade Mail would. Since Bristleback, you're not going to be focusing him until everybody else is dead. You usually ignore a Bristleback, you want to stun him, ignore him, and then turn around and kill the rest of his team, just because if you're focusing a Bristleback, it's what he wants you to do. And so a Blade Mail, all it does is it gives the enemy team more incentives to ignore you. Whereas if you go for a mechanism, they're at least forced to try to lock you down to prevent you from getting that mech off, to be able to heal the enemy team. Rubick steals the mana drain, called out the stun, actually 3-man a bow strike coming out from Icy Wiener, channels that Epicenter doing so much work. Ladon actually got a town on the tower, he's going for objective-based gaming. That 7-ward's been dropped, but dropped far too late. Called out the stun from the SK, and that's another 4-man wipe going out in favor of All ST, as well as the tower that were doing so well early on in the game, and questionable item builds, as well as questionable engagements coming out from CDCT. Not going down too well for them. Sanking has picked up his Blink Dagger, he's got Arcane Boots up as well, so he's got all the items he needs. Windrunner wasn't able to pick up as much farm. Looks like she's the one that's going to be building the mechanism, unless she's building towards a 4-staff. Either way, well, Windrunner is a very powerful offlane hero in the sense that it's hard to bring her down. Unless she's able to get a significant amount of farm, she does taper off very quickly. And Icy Winnie goes in for a great blink with the Iron Shell damage, able to pick her off. Your mind eating a fair amount of right clicks. The Buds that were walking, if he actually went for a Hex there, could have called him out. Decides to back out wisely instead, as Invoker is waiting in the wings. Lifestealer choosing still not to rage. Being very conservative with his rages. Turns around with the stun, Bow Strike stun. Only catches one, unfortunately. Stands something so much damage. Turn around, able to kill the Shadow Shaman. Your mind also does one more right click from Agent Orange. Invoker fleeing for his life. Standing 2001 under the Bristleback. Pops his Blade Mail, runs in, doing what he can. But that early Blade Mail just isn't doing enough. And he takes a fall. It's the issue with going for early survivability items over on the Bristleback. They could just ignore you and then focus you at 4 or 5v1. What you want to do instead is give them reason to have to kill you. So if you pick up something, if you pick up utility items for your team, such as the mechanism, not only do you boost your own survivability, you also force them to have to consider your priority threats. The reason why Viper is so effective as a mech carrier is he's difficult enough to bring down as it is, so you usually want to either ignore the Viper or focus everything you have on him. He's able to get another kill as Invoker tries to TP out with the pure amount of damage coming out with the Nether Toxin. And Viper with the Mithril Hammer, a bit surprising to see what he chooses to go for. Most likely going to be a BKB coming out from him. Very surprised he's choosing to go for a BKB, considering the amount of magic damage coming out from CDCT isn't actually enough to kill him, and the amount of lockdown, while it is significant, the majority of the lockdown they have isn't going to be enough to kill him just because they lack that DPS. Bristleback isn't going to be able to capitalize in the time they have while he's locked down. Even if they are able to land Sunstrike, if they focus everything on the Viper and they're able to kill him, the rest of his team can wipe out. Especially with a Lifestealer on board. Having an Aghanim Scepter gives you a lot more teamfight presence just because you can constantly throw out the Nether Toxin. And with a 950 range Viper Strike, you can catch a lot of players off guard with how big the range is, especially the slower support heroes like the Shadow Shaman or the Rubick. And you can start an engagement that way by initiating with the Viper Strike. But that being said, BKB is still a fantastic item on the Viper, since if you can't kill Viper, he sure as hell can kill you. Nether Toxin hurts like hell, especially the longer the engagement goes. Corrosive Skin makes it very difficult to bring him down. And it means that if you throw out any uncontrolled AoE spells, you're going to be eating a snare to the face, so he doesn't even have to hit you to be able to do his job. And Viper with such excellent time on target is able to do a huge amount of damage. The Bud's caught out with the lift. Stolen. Hex has been stolen, returned on him. Standard 2001. He might be able to get that kill, but Agent Orange turns around the mech, keeping his teammates alive. That's the power of the early mechanism. Gonna eat the quill spray to the face, unfortunately, and take a fall. But Agent Orange is absolutely godlike. Two-man bow strike coming out from him. Epistemic channel as well as the wall and the vacuum. Mass serpent wards, panic wards being dropped, trapping his own teammates in, and those wards gonna be farmed up. Great plays coming out from all ST. As that teamfight combination coming out with the vacuum wall epicenter completely tearing through CDCT, at least until they pick up a mechanism or a BKB. But at the rate the game is going, they're able to leverage that team fight up into towers. Lead up, pushes forward. He's gone for S and Y, so he's got that ability to be able to run people down now, to be able to chase and to be able to snare them and keep them in place. So very questionable build order, going with that Helmet and Dominator, but his team making it work for him. The greed coming up from the Lifestealer hasn't really been punished all too much. Windrunner continuing to throw out power shots from a distance, trying to at least prevent the tier 3s from being broken. If they're able to hold on to tier 3s, they could try to turn the game around, hope that the enemy team overcommits into an engagement. Lion choosing to max out the mana drain over the Hex. Fairly understandable considering there's a Bristle back. It's one of the ways you can counteract the Bristle back, because you just burn off his mana and leave him alone. You focus on the rest of his teammates, especially considering that Hex at one point is still a 2.5 second stun. It's a very powerful disable at all levels. Darkseid with that blink tag actually chose to go for Necrobook. So they're going for an all-in push strat since they know that the way they win this game is to win the engagement, to leverage the engagement. So having a Necrobook helps in that regard, in the latter regard. So once you win the fight, you use Necrobooks to push down the towers, or you use it to siege. If you're able to pick up multiple Necro 3s, you could slowly siege high ground. He seems a bit confused, turning back and forth, decides to kill the Forge Spirits. Invoker resummons them. Over in the bottom lane, Agent Orange continuing to farm up. With the amount of gold he's going for now, he could either choose to go for more traditional carry items. He can maybe pick up something like a Manta style, or he can go for the Aghanim Scepter. Aghanim Scepter is probably one of the best Aghanim upgrades in the game, just because it decreases the cooldown to 12 seconds, increases range to 950, and Viper Strike is one of the best snares in the game because it goes through BKB, 80% snare for both movement speed and attack speed, and it stacks on top of your poison attack as well as your corrosive skin. So it's essentially a miniature Doom. You throw it out on a hero like a Bristleback, and Bristleback can't do anything. He's crawling along. His teamfight effectiveness is completely crippled, or you can throw it out on support hero and quickly blow them up, because they can't run away from you. It buys Lifestealer all the time in the world to be able to keep right-clicking them. So the tread build actually makes a lot more sense than phase in this game, because you've got the Viper to provide the snare to increase your time on target, which is the amount of time you spend hitting the enemy hero. I see Weedon waiting in the wings, classic SK tactics. You want to hide off in positions where the enemy team can't see you. When they group up to defend, you channel your ult, you blink in Burrow Strike, and you're able to win a fight like that. So he's waiting for him to clump, and he goes in with a 3-man Burrow Strike, immediately falls up the epicenter, no lift coming up from your mind, very late lift, and instantly kills 2 heroes. And that's a tower off the back of that, and that could actually be high ground. Without the Invoker to defend with the Deafening Blast Meteor combination, looks like he's also going for the Zoo build. And without the Bristleback, the heroes that have the most amount of farm on the enemy team, they aren't able to achieve all too much. So while I was saying earlier, Windrunner is a very powerful offlane hero in the sense that it's difficult to kill her, but unless she's able to get a lot of farm, she isn't as effective as another offlane hero. Sometimes Warrunner, he picks up a blink tag, he can do his job and just run in. Windrunner, unless you're able to get exceptionally good shackle shots, can be considered a bit of a wasted offlaner pick. That's why you usually do see her mid a lot more. It's because she's got incredibly powerful abilities in the one-on-one matchup, just because she's got an excellent attack point. She's got the second best attack animation in the game, good projectile speed and high base damage. So in the one-on-one situation, you could easily outlast hit and out-deny the enemy hero. The Derp turning around with the Helmet Dominator as well as the open wounds, giving all the HP in the world. Pops his rage, that great vacuum, catches out 3. Panic Ghost Walk coming out from the Invoker, but with no detection, he's got to keep himself alive. Shackle over on the Darkseid, but Lee Derp is very happy with it. Never mind, he actually could be taking a fall. There's one more right click, he dies, feeding a spree, but Agent Orange in the background cleaning up. They really need to focus on the objective here before they start to give away their advantage. And it looks like they're forced to back off. Without the Lifestealer there, they can't take this engagement, especially with 4 heroes from the enemy team up. Sunstrike misses. Power Shot catches out Magma, almost kills him, but he should be able to blink himself home. Just going to do a quick golden EXP check. 25,000 gold lead in favor of all ST. In terms of EXP, 25,000 EXP lead as well. EXP is usually more important in the early stages of the game. You want to have a substantial EXP lead more than you want to have a substantial gold lead. Gold lead's also important, but the EXP lead is how you get the gold lead. Since if you have a high level abilities in the enemy hero, assuming you're able to execute properly, You can leverage that into more kills, more team fights, and then turn those into more towers, which leverage you into more gold. Or could Malevolence picked up on the Viper? To use that to completely shut down the Invoker. Orchid's a great pickup over on the Viper, just because it gives him a surprising amount of damage. Orchid's a fairly efficient DPS pickup on a lot of heroes, because it increases damage. It gives you that soul burn amplification at the very end, so it works out very nicely for Viper, because he's got the dot damage coming out from all of his abilities. Follow up with the soul burn amplification, he actually does a fair amount of damage, and it means that he could ult one hero, silence the other one, and the enemy team's effectively fighting 3v5. If you ult the Bristle back and silence, say, the Shadow Shaman, before he's able to get any of his abilities off, Shadow Shaman's now dead weight. You're able to turn around, ignore the Bristleback, kill everybody else, turn back around, finish off the Bristleback, and then take these engagements. It's the drawback of having Bristleback as your one position heroes, in this case since he was a tri-lane farmer, especially since he went for tanking items when they needed more utility and they needed more damage. If he went for something like an Armlet Medigian, if he picked up an early mech, or if he was able to get an AC up a lot faster, he could have had a lot more teamfight impact. But since he chose to go for Vanguard as opposed to Mechanism, and chose to go for a Blade Mail a bit too early onto the game, Invoker, well I say that, Invoker's going to be eating a lot of damage to the face, takes the fall, Epicenter was cancelled unfortunately by the Shackle, that's not going to matter, Bristleback's been silenced, fleeing for his life, Master Serpent Ward's doing what they can, but BKB up on Agent Orange, he's going to run them down. And Master Serpent Ward's going to be farmed up. Icy Wind has been absolutely on point with his Blink Burrow Strikes. Him, especially in conjunction with the Vacuum Wall, has been winning them a lot of engagements almost single-handedly. And Agent Orange, he's just doing his thing, right-clicking people down, making sure that once the initiation happens, you can't run away, since you can just walk around snaring people. And it's a first set of racks going in favor of All ST. It could be two sets of racks, especially with the Necro 3 up on Magma. That's what I was talking about earlier. And GG well played being called, so CDCT. Calling it, I believe is this game number 1? I'll just have to quickly double check, but this could be a game going in favor of All ST. Not too sure if there are more games happening. And so that looks like it for now. Just going to take a quick pause while I figure out if there are any other games happening, and we'll be right back. Looks like the last game has just finished up, so we'll be starting again tomorrow from about 9 in the morning. So I'll be casting the round 2 best of 3 playoffs. So that's all lit for the night. So that's 49 starting off, and of course all VODs for the games I've casted so far will be uploaded to my YouTube channel. So that's just 49 up on YouTube. So I hope you've enjoyed for tonight, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys again tomorrow.